Hi there, I'm Michelle the Painter, and this is Paint and Sip at Home. All right, so today I'm going to be painting Waterfall Bridge, and I'm sipping on some Earl Grey tea. And if you enjoy this process, I do hope that you like and subscribe to my channel, and that you also check out my Patreon page where you're going to find additional painting perks such as this one. So this painting that I did today is inspired by a beautiful photo that was submitted by one of my Patreon members by the name of Cheryl Kittle. It's of a national landmark in Oregon. And it's just this spectacular, beautiful waterfall. And I have this benefit for my Patreon members whereby they get to submit photos every now and again, and I'll turn some of them into YouTube video tutorials. And then as a thank you, I will send her this original painting, so I hope she enjoys it. I enjoyed her photo, so I hope she enjoys my painting. And if you'd like to learn how you too could submit your photo, or to get more information on the Patreon membership program, I have all of that information down below in the video description. So let's get painting and let's get sipping. All right, so for my materials today, I'm going to be using a stretched and primed 16 by 20 inch canvas. If you're painting along with me, you can certainly switch up the size, but that's what I'll be using. I'm using acrylic paint today. My colors are titanium white, green oxide, chrome yellow, Mars black, burnt umber, which I like to call brown, and fire red. And of course, you can switch up those colors if you'd like. For my tools today, I have a standard number 2 pencil that I'm going to be using for some drawing. And then I have 3 brushes from my personal brush line, which is Michelle the Painter brushes. I have a 3/4 inch wide flat bristle brush. I have a 1/4 inch wide flat bristle brush. And I have a number 1 round synthetic brush. And I will most likely refer to these as small, medium, and large, or I'll call them out by their name. So those you can switch up as well. If you're painting along with me, you're probably going to want to have a cup of water for washing your brushes, as well as a paper towel for drying your brushes. And down below this video, in the video description, I do provide you with a few additional resources that can help you throughout your painting process. One of them is a link to my shop, where you can purchase the same exact paint kit that I'm using for this painting, from the same size and type of canvas to the paints and brushes and all the good stuff in between. You can also purchase from my shop things individually, like my brushes from my brush line. So that's there. There's also a link where you can download a free image of the final painting. So you can print that and use it as visual reference as you go through the painting process. And there's also written step-by-step instructions down there for you as well. And that's all we're going to need today. All right, so what we're going to do for the first step is we're going to be drawing an outline for the landscape. I'm going to be using my pencil. You can certainly use any drawing utensil that is comfortable to you. I'm going to guide you through a series of markers so we can section off the canvas in some big basic shapes. So the first line that I'm going to give you is way down at the bottom of the canvas. So I'm going to come down into the bottom left hand corner of my canvas, and I'm going to come up maybe about 1/4 to 1/2 of an inch, give myself a little bit of a marker in through there. Then I'm going to go over onto the right hand side at the bottom and come up maybe about an inch, inch and a half, make myself a marker. I'm going to connect these 2 markers with a very kind of carefree, organic type of a line. I just kind of dip it down in through here, and then maybe just give it a little bumpiness in through there. Doesn't have to be anything perfect. Then what I'm going to do is I'm going to come up from here, maybe about an inch to an inch and a quarter, somewhere in through here. And then over on the left-hand side, if this is, let's see, maybe it's even the same height here. We've got this height, and on this side, it's just about at the same height, somewhere. Oh, actually, maybe it's a little bit higher. I got it somewhere in through here. We'll just measure it like this, see if it's at the same height in through here. Yeah, the left-hand side is a little bit higher than the right-hand side. And then I'm just going to connect these with just a long, little bit of an arcing line. So I went up just a little bit in that middle, and came back down. This is going to separate our water from our bottom foreground land. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to find myself the center of my canvas. So for me, that's somewhere in this vicinity. Top to bottom, left to right, wherever that center is. What I'm going to do from here is I'm going to go up about 2 inches, give myself a little bit of a marker, and then I'm going to go to the left and to the right about 1.5 inches each. It doesn't have to be perfect. Mine might even be a little bit more to the right. So this is about 3 inches wide. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to come straight down from this marker to my water line and go to the left just a little bit, just a little smudge in through there. And then on this one, I'm going to come straight down to my water line, somewhere in through here, and go almost 1 inch, maybe about 3/4 of an inch to the left of that. So what I just did was I created markers that are going to put our main waterfall in place, and it kind of steers a little bit down towards the left. So I'm going to take this and just give myself a really kind of messy line to there, another messy line to there, and then I'm just going to give myself a horizontal line right to here. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to come up to the top right hand corner of my canvas, and I'm going to come in, I would say about 2.5 inches. I'm going to connect here to this corner here with just a long kind of roly-poly kind of bumpy line. And then in the left-hand corner, I'm coming down about 1 inch, 1.25 inches, somewhere in through here. And now I can connect here to here with, again, just a long kind of organic, bumpy type of a line. And that's all I'm going to be doing for my outline. I'm going to be using my large bristle brush for the next step. So you can put your pencil away, take out a large brush, and get ready for the next step. All right, so what we're going to do for the next step is we're going to paint the base coat on the entire canvas. So this will be for the back where the waterfall is back into here. It's going to be the forest area that's got ledges and trees and stuff. It'll be for the waterfall. It'll be for the water. And so we're doing a base coat for all of these sections. I'm going to use my large bristle brush to paint, but I'm going to use my small bristle brush to make a couple of custom colors. So I'm going to be making a custom gray color for the background in through here, which to me looks like there's lots of ledges, rock ledges in through it, and it's in the distance. So we're going to have a soft muted gray as our base coat. We'll have a dark green for these sections. We'll be using black, our dark green down here, and then we're going to use black and white as our base for this portion of the waterfall. So I'm going to pre-mix my colors first, so that way I have them as I go through the painting process. So this is my custom gray color right here. How I got to this is black and white, and then I added a touch of red to it because I wanted it to have almost like a plummy, not plum, that's not the right word, like a soft, I don't want to call it pink either, but it definitely, I mean, I'm using red in it, so it's got some warmth to it, but the black and the white and the red in it is going to make it almost look like a soft lavender type of a color, which is what I'm using a photo reference for this painting, and that's what I was detecting as a dominant color in that background ledge. So I'm going to be using it as my base color, and then I'll add my, additional details to it later. So that's going to give it some good atmospheric dimension and push it back farther into the canvas than what we see in the foreground. So I just washed and dried my brush. I didn't wash it very good, but that's okay. Wash and dry my brush. And now I'm going to make myself a custom dark green color, which is right here. How I got to this is a lot of yellow, a lot of green, and just a touch of black. So if I was just to go black and green, my green turns a little bit on the duller side. So I wanted it to be a rich forest green. So that's why I added more of the chrome yellow into it. And this is going to turn it into a nice, rich forest green type of a color that I'll be able to use as the dominant color everywhere that I have my greenery involved. And I'll also be using it later for the reflection in the water. So that's looking good to me. And those are the only two custom colors that I'm going to be making. So once you've got those done, what I'm going to do is I'm going to pick up some of my custom gray color, and I'm just going to paint this entire back section with this custom color. I don't need to worry about any fancy brush stroke. You could even swirl it around just to give it, you know, if you didn't have great opacity and wanted there to look like there's some, you know, softness to it, or utilizing the lightness of the canvas underneath, you could certainly do that. But my paint with the black and the white makes it have fantastic opacity, so you're not going to be able to really see my canvas underneath unless I missed a spot or unless I used that scrubbing technique to make it super thin. So I'm just going to paint it on in a solid coat, and we will be adding all of the little dimensional elements to it later. So once I have that, what I'm going to do is I'm going to wash and dry my brush, and it doesn't matter if it's super duper clean or not. And then I'm going to paint in my green areas. So that's going to be, or these two green areas. We'll tackle this one after we do that. This is going to be this area and this area. And again, no special brush stroke because I'm going to be using this just as a base coat. All I needed is the base coat. I'm not going for any detail right now. My paint will show streakiness because I didn't use any white in my color combination. So you'll be able to detect some streakiness on these particular sections, which I'm totally okay with because again, I've got so much work to go on this. This is just providing me with somewhere to start. And when I'm doing these type of things, these type of paintings where what I did to start this was I looked at my photograph and I picked out basic large shapes of areas within the painting that I could detect a very dominant main color for those particular sections. So we have these big rock ledge areas in the foreground that have tons of trees and foliage all on them. I can detect some of the rock underneath the foliage and stuff, but as I was looking at the photo, the main color I was seeing was this dark forest green. So this is the color that I'm opting to start with because it'll help kind of expedite my painting process. So I don't have to worry about all the little fine-tuned detail, especially when I'm just applying this base coat, but this will speak to the entire area. I'm now going to, I'm going to do this bottom section. I don't think it really matters if I do one before the other, so I'm going to do this bottom section as well. This is actually going to be foreground foliage and stuff that's going to overlap our water area, but for, again, this main section or this just coloring it in purposes, we can just paint it like that. Now I'm going to wash and dry my brush. And I'm going to pick up black paint and I'm going to paint in my water with a base coat of black. The water will later be reflecting some of the waterfall, as well as it's got looks like some shallow spots within the water. It might have reflections of the foliage. There's all kinds of colors that I'm seeing in the water, but for me, again, the dominant color is really dark. So I'm just starting with this base coat of black, and then we'll elevate it after that with all of the other information. Now I'm going to put my base coat of my waterfall. What I'm going to do, I'm just going to add white to my dirty brush. So white is going on my dirty brush, and this is going to create this on the fly kind of gray color, but I don't necessarily need to or want to blend it all in. So I'm just going to kind of go right up to the top of my waterfall in through here and then just kind of pull it down. Again, I don't need it to be perfect right now. I'm just starting my process. So just you can even overlap it into that green a little bit so you don't have any gap between those two, and you can bump it right into that water section. So something like this. And you'll see I'm not blending it in. So we're going to have these varying tones just organically within that water. And then I'm going to be using this same brush for the next step. So once you've got this done, you can wash and dry this large brush and get ready for the next step. All right, so what we're going to do for the next step is we're going to do the first step to this background land. So I'm going to be using my large bristle brush. The colors that I'm going to use are that gray, black, brown, my dark green, and white. And if I use any other colors, I'll let you know. I might tap a little bit into the brown as well, but what I'm looking to do right now is give myself the basic color pattern of all of the detailed areas that I see back here. So what I mean by that is when I'm looking at the reference, I see that there's some dark area down by the waterfall. The upper waterfall is going to come down in through here, and then the land, which is the whatever rock formation is back here, kind of gets darker as it goes down towards this ledge of the waterfall. So I want to make sure that I've got that back area going dark down here. I also want to put in place where my waterfall is going to go. So we started this one with a gray type of color. I want to do something similar back here, but it's got to look like it's farther off in the distance. So I'll be doing it with my custom gray plus maybe a little bit of black or brown to get that area in there with a little bit of white as well. And then I see some greenery in that background. So I'm going to be using some of that custom green plus maybe a little bit of white to tap in or to start the idea or the impression that there's some trees maybe along the ledge of that piece of land. I'm not going to be using a lot of paint on my brush. I will be using my large bristle brush. I do recommend that your canvas is dry before you start this step. And I'm going to always be using very little bit of paint on my brush. So as I go through this process, I'll be wiping my brush off a lot on my paper towel. And it's okay if you bump into these two pieces of land, because we're going to finish this before we go on to here, and then these will overlap that. So I'm going to start with a tiny bit of my custom gray plus a little bit of black. And when I say a little bit, I just have a teeny tiny dot on the tip of my brush. And then I'm going to start down in this area, down in through here, because I see that there's a bunch of darkness down in this area of the photograph. So that's what I'm going to try and emulate. And then I can just kind of swirl it or dry brush it going up into the rest of that area. I feel that there's a little bit of darkness on the sides of my waterfall. So I'm just going to use the remnants that are on my brush to get a little bit darker area in through there. My waterfall is going to come down in through here and kind of hide right behind here and spray out a little bit over here. So just a little bit of darkness on those sides, maybe a little bit more. I'm feeling I want to go just a little bit more. I just picked up a little bit more of that gray, custom gray plus a touch of black. And I'm just very cautious with that black on my brush. I don't want it to overpower and make my whole area black, so that's why I'm just using a little tiny bit of it plus that custom gray. So that's looking pretty good. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to look for any of the greenish areas that well, actually let me put the waterfall part in first. So I'm going to pick up some of my custom gray and a touch of my white on my dirty brush. So if there's a teeny bit of black still on there, that's okay. When I say a little bit of white, I'm talking just dots on the corner of my brush. And I just want this area to be a little bit lighter and start the process of my waterfall coming. I'm just giving it some really soft edges to it to make it look like it's spraying out. So just little bits here and there, and we will be making this look more energetic and effervescent in a little bit, but right now I just kind of wanted to put this on here. It looks very spray-y. It's not good. It's a word that makes sense in my head. I think this waterfall, I was looking at other photographs of this waterfall, the actual fall itself is way super high up, so I think as it's coming in this area here, it is very misty. That's a good word, misty. So that will start that off. Now what I'm going to do, I'm not even going to wash my brush. I'm just going to pick up some of my custom dark green. Again, just an itty bitty bit. And I'm just going to start painting little splotches of that here and there, wherever I see them in this in this back area. Again, don't want to overdo it. I just see teeny tiny bits of it. If I feel it's going too dark on me, I'll pick up a little bit of white, but right now I'm thinking that this is working out just fine for me. It's given me enough of this color that's making me happy. There's a little bit in through here. I'm going to now pick up a little bit of brown and white on my dirty brush, so a tiny bit of brown and just a itty. Again, I can't stress the little bitty bit amount that I am using. So just an itty bitty bit on my brush, just to put a little bit of different tone in maybe these upper corners. So a tiny bit of brown and white, just to give myself some underlying different tones back in through there, and maybe just a little bit over on this side. And then once I've got this done, or once I've got to this point, what I'm going to do is I'm just going to look around and see if there's any spots that are not painted. Like I see a couple of little bald spots in through here. So I'm just going to pick up a tiny bit of my gray, my custom gray, and just make sure I've got everywhere painted in, because the next step that I'm going to be doing on this background or on this area is going to be the final step with all the little details. So I just want to make sure, I just put a tiny bit of water on my brush. I just want to make sure that when I go to do those tiny little details, I'm not concerned about unpainted areas. I want to just tackle my details and not have to worry about any kind of fundamental things, which would be making sure you have the entire canvas painted. So that's looking pretty good to me. I got my darkness where I want, maybe a little bit more darkness up and through here. I'm going to pick up a tiny bit more brown. I feel like there's some more darkness up and through here, so just a little bit more brown on my brush. The brown will give you a nice darkness without it going too dark. So if you're working through this and you're saying, I just want to amp it just a little bit darker, but I don't want to use the black, I'm a little nervous to use the black, just pick up a little bit of the brown and that'll help you do it. And then once you've got this done, we're going to use our small bristle brush for the next step. So I'm going to put this large bristle brush away, take out the small one, and get ready for the next step. All right, so what we're going to do for the next step is we're going to finish this back land, including that piece of the waterfall. I'm using my small bristle brush. The colors I'm going to use are brown, red, yellow, white, and maybe my custom gray and my dark green. So all of my colors except for green oxide, which I might tap into that too, but I might not. So what I'm gonna do is I just wanna give some final details to all of this little stuff. Again, it's off in the distance, out of focus. It's not my main land in through here, but I do wanna give it the essence of that stuff back there is similar to here, but it's off in the distance. So that's where this grayish tone came into place. It's throwing it back into the distance, and I need to finish the white frothy stuff on the waterfall. So I'm using a smaller brush. I'm going to go in for my details, and I'm going to do my waterfall last. So I'm just going to go in and do my side stuff. So I'm going to maybe just start over on this left-hand side. I see in the picture that there's maybe a couple of little ledges. So I'm going to pick up a touch of brown and white, just a little bit of both. And I see, maybe there's a couple of little, in the distance, these little marks that are going to imply that there's some little ledges off in the little peaks of ledges popping through those green areas. I don't see any really on this right side, maybe just the hint of some rocks kind of coming down in through here, the faces of the rocks. So all I'm doing right now is looking for maybe little areas that I can use directional brush strokes, or the implication of whatever's back there. A lot of this is going to be hidden by overhanging branches, so I don't need to do a ton. I'm just kind of looking for spots that are a little bit more evident with their details. So I'm kind of seeing some stuff in through here that might work out. This is all going to be covered with overhanging stuff, but I do want to put some little darker details in through here because I feel like this might be some trees in through here, and then there's like branches and stuff underneath them. So I'm picking up a tiny bit of black paint, and I'm just going to kind of almost like, well, I'm going to put a little bit of water on my brush too, kind of just dot, squiggle some little bits of black in through here as if maybe this is some little branches and stuff. I feel like there's some in through here as well. Again, I have a tiny bit of black on my brush. I'm just kind of wiggling my brush a little bit. This is going to allow for it to appear as if there's more details in the background than you know, that the viewer can't really discern exactly what they are. I feel like there's a little bit of this, these branch things or something up in through here. So I'm just, again, using a little bit of watered down black on my brush to kind of get some of these little darker details in through here. My bridge is going to come way up in through here. So I'm feeling like there's some little dark stuff over here and maybe up in through here. That's looking pretty good. So now I want to incorporate a little bit more of the greenery. So I'm going to go for my dark green, light green, dark green, yellow, and just a tiny touch of white. So an itty bitty bit on my dirty brush, and I can sense that there's maybe just a little hint of some lightness at the top. That was probably too light, so I'm picking up a little bit more of my dark green. Just the ever so faint illusion of maybe just a couple of little tree toppers somewhere in through there. I just didn't want it a flat green color, so that works for me in through there. And now I feel like I want to incorporate there's going to be some orange and yellow leaves throughout the foreground. So I really want to incorporate a little bit of that, the hint of that in the background. So I'm going to wash and dry my brush, and I'm going to create a custom orange, which we will use later. So I have it on my palette here. How I arrived at this is yellow, red, and just a teeny tiny touch of white paint, just a tiny touch of white paint to help with the opacity. So this just gives me a nice orange color, and I don't want it to be too bright back here. So what I'm going to do when I use it, I'm going to also use it with a touch of my gray. So I have the orange plus a touch of my gray, and again, I'm just looking for little pops of this color to just authenticate the foliage that I will be putting on later. So just little tiny pops here and there. You can use it as space fillers. You can, put it where, if you dig it, you can even put it more. But again, just teeny little pieces to just kind of make the viewer understand that the background is a version of whatever we're seeing in the front. So that looks pretty good to me. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to finish my waterfall back here. I'm going to wash and dry my brush. I'm going to go predominantly white unless I need to tap into something else. But my mission is to just not use a lot of paint on my brush. I want to make sure I got all that yellow or that orange off of my brush. There we go, that works. So I'm going to start with just a tiny bit of white, just a little bit on my brush, and I can kind of make the center of this the brightest, just kind of using it in a swirling type of manner, and then I can get it to kind of come out and dissipate as it's going over all of this darker colors that we had put. My bridge is going to be somewhere in through here, and it looks like there's a little bit of foamy stuff kind of coming up here. These bristle brushes are fabulous for this type of effect because you can just keep swirling around that paint until it dries, and you can keep layering it until you have that white as bright as you want it. You may not necessarily want to go all the way white or just in a couple spots, because you're going to have white at the top of here too, and that's really where you want the whitest of the white. So just as you're going through this, just try to make it a little bit transparent, which means scrubbing it a little bit harder so you can see through it. That's what's going to give it a nice natural look. You can even put a tiny bit of water on your brush, and that'll help you get it to thin out a little bit more so you can have almost these additional kind of areas that spray out a little bit more and add to that frothiness of the waterfall. And I'm gonna add more up in through here. And again, this doesn't, to me, in the image look like it's shooting straight down. It really feels like it's almost, or it appears to me as it's almost like misty, for lack of a better word. Kind of curls out like this. And then but soft edges, you know, misty, but, you know, maybe it's a little bit thicker in that middle and just kind of allowing for it to dissipate on these edges. So soft edges as it's entering into those darker sides. And I always, especially when doing something like this, will let it dry for a little while before I cast judgment on whether I need to or want to add more. But as you're going through this process, if you did something and you're like, wow, that was too much, just pick up your white with a touch of your gray, and that will help you to get like a mid-tone within that water coming down, and that will allow it to blend in much better with that background. Or with the land next to it. So again, if you've made it too bright or too white in some areas, just come back with a little bit of that gray intermingled with it, and or you could use more white. You could really use different combinations in order to get it as bright as you want. But I'm gonna let mine dry for a minute, because sometimes I put these layers on too fast, and if it's not dry enough, I feel like it might dry a little bit darker, so I'm gonna let it dry, and if I feel I want to amp it up any, I certainly will, and I'll most likely just do that with some white paint. And then we're gonna be using our large brush for the next step. So once you've got this done, and get it pretty light as it's hitting this land in through here, because this is, you know, it's pretty powerful down here, and then I guess it must land in the water and then come and push this down here. So you can get it pretty light as it's hitting this piece of land in through here. And then you can put this brush away, take out the large bristle brush, and get ready for the next step. All right, so what we're gonna do for the next step is the first step, the ledges. It's really the second step because we did the base coat, but I'm going to consider the base coat of the canvas just the base coat of the canvas, and then this is the first real step to these big ledges that are going to be holding up our bridge and cascading our waterfall through them. I'm going to use my large bristle brush to paint, but I am going to make one more custom color, and I'll use my small round to create that color, which I'm going to call tan. So the colors that I'm going to use in this step are black, dark green, brown, yellow, and white, and and we're going to do the first step to the water too, because it's just going to be carrying some of these colors into the water. I think that's it. I might use some of that orange color as well, but when I get to it, I'll let you know. So I have pre-mixed my tan color on my palette here. This is it right here. How I got to this is brown, yellow, and white. So a good amount of brown and a good amount of white and just a little bit of yellow. So my brown and white is going to turn really dull, and I want it to be a nice kind of golden, almost yellowy kind of tan. So that's where the yellow comes into place, and you just spin it together. And this is about the color I'm going for. You could be lighter or darker. You could have a little bit more yellow in it, a little bit more brown, whatever works for you. Just something that's nice and neutral that we'll be able to utilize for some details. So now that I've got that, what I'm going to do is I'm approaching these two sections very similarly to how I did that top section, which is in my photo reference. I am going to be looking for dark areas. And I'm going to be putting those in with a lot of black and brown. And then I'm going to go for some lighter areas, which is going to be a lot of the green areas. And there's also some bits of rocks and stuff that I feel are pretty evident. So that's where that tan color is going to come in place. And we're going to put some varying brush strokes to create a little bit of texture and the color patterns that I'm seeing. And then we'll come back on a future step and put some details. The water is going to be reflecting stuff from here. So as I go through this process, I'm just going to dabble in a little bit of the colors that I'm using up top. So what I'm first going to do is I'm going to start with a little bit of black on my brush because I'm going to go black and brown because I see a lot of dark areas in these formations, and that's going to help to get the dimension in it. So I have black and brown on my brush. I'm going to start down here at the bottom. I don't want to lose the information where my water is going to meet my ledge, so I'm going to just make sure I leave a little of that evidence, and I'm also leaving a little bit of the green popping through. So I'm just using the kind of the tip of my brush to almost go left to right. I guess I might be doing a little diagonal. I don't think that really matters much. And then I'm going to go up the side of my waterfall. I'm even going to bump into my waterfall a little bit because I want that to really feel like they are one with each other. And I see a little bit of this darkness right up at the top in through here. There's a little bit of a dark line that kind of goes in through here. So I'm going to I see it, so I'm going to put it in somewhere in through here. I do feel that there's some darkness back here, but it feels a little bit more like there's more dark green in it. So I have the black, brown, and now I have a touch of dark green. So I'm just going to make this a little bit darker in through here. And again, I'm just kind of looking for those dark areas. This looks like it's going to have a lot of greens and some of that tan color that I was referring to. So we'll leave that for a little bit later. I'm going to pick up more black and brown. I feel like we've got some more darkness up here, but I've got some super darkness down here. So that's where I'm going to start since I just reloaded my brush. And again, I'm going to start down in through here, leaving the evidence of where I want that water to kind of meet this dark area. So it's really pretty dark down in through here. You could almost get away with going black and then coming up this side of the waterfall in through here. And again, I'm leaving some of that green. I want to be able to see, especially along the sides of the waterfall, because I can detect that in the photo. I can detect some greenery. If you by chance cover up all that green, don't worry, you certainly have the opportunity to add it later. I guess the trick here is just not any firm lines. So no clean, heavy, thick lines, just using that brush to give you this softness. I'm seeing that directly from here, there's a big dark spot over in through here. So I'm going to put this big dark spot, and it kind of comes over in through here. It looks like there's a ledge or some rocks and stuff over here. So just going to put that. We've got a little bit of darkness down in through here as well. Just kind of giving myself some dark spots to play with later on. I'm picking up more black and brown, and I see quite a bit up in through here. So I'm just going to kind of give myself some darkness up and through here. And again, I'm leaving some of that green because this is how I'm going to get lots of dimension in my landscape. You could have started with all black and built your way to the light, which I do quite frequently. I was just seeing a ton of this green, and I really wanted to make sure that I was able to get some nice depth in it. I'm using my dirty brush, or the remnants on my brush right now, to get just a little extra darkness over in through here, leaving some of that green. There's going to be some trees popping up over in through here. So that looks pretty good. So now what I'm going to do is, I'm feeling like that's working out just great. So now what I'm going to do, I'm actually going to, on my dirty brush, pick up some of my dark green, and I'm going to put a little bit of the reflection in the water. So I have the dark green, and I'm just going to go left to right and put a little bit of this dark green in the water. So this way, as I'm building that water, I've got the hints of the dark green. Again, don't need to do a whole heck of a lot, just an itty bitty bit on top of that black. I have a little bristle that's going to drive me crazy. There we go. Just a little bit on top of that black is going to start that reflective surface. It's going to go pretty light in through here, so I don't really need to do a whole heck of a lot in through here, just kind of dabbling in that green. That looks good to me. So now what I'm going to do, I'm going to wash my brush because I want to start putting in those lighter areas, and I know that I have the black on my brush and that's going to make everything darker than I want, so I'll just wash and dry my brush. I'm going to now find some of those tan spots and start to incorporate that color pattern. So I'm picking up some tan on the tip of my brush. There's a lot over in through here. I'm dabbing my brush off on my paper towel because this is it. What I'm seeing is kind of these like little polka dot kind of marks, and this looks like it's going to be a little bit too light for me, so I'm going to pick up I'm going to pick that tan up with a little bit of brown on my brush as well. And again, we do have a final step that we'll be doing later to accomplish the more fine-tuned detail on this. I also feel like I want a little bit more darkness up and through here. So I'm picking up a touch of black on my brush. I know I just washed my brush, but it's the nature of my game. I feel like there's more black that connects to this little rock in through here, or whatever it is that I'm seeing. This, for all I could tell, maybe that's a bush or something, but we're just going to do that, and that'll satisfy my painterly eye. Now I'm picking up some more of that tan color. I see some more of that over in through here. So again, just tapping my brush off on my paper towel. I'm just going to give myself some of this lighter coloring in through here. Just picked up a little bit more brown. Again, the trick is to just not overdo it. If you're seeing just little speckly polka dots in the photo, that's all you need to do. Just allowing for those color variations to really play off of one another. There's rows of green, there's rows of black. I see, tons of this tan color, and I allow myself to just put it in the painting because I might not know exactly what it is that I'm looking at in the photograph, but I can certainly, I can see colors. So I can see over in through here that there's some more of like little ledges or something. So I'm just going to kind of pop down some little marks in through here. And if I don't get them all exactly as they are in the photo, I'm okay with that. I'm just looking for something that's going to give me something representational of this photo. You can certainly go all in and make every single little mark and make it look hyper photorealistic. That'll be your decision how far you want to take it. Thinking that's pretty good for the rocks. There's a couple more in through here, so I'm using this brownish tan color in order to represent where I want those lighter areas to go. I feel like I want a little bit more darkness here before I start working into where I want all the green stuff. So at the top of here, I feel like this should be a little bit darker and have a little bit more oomph to it. So I'm doing that. And there'll be another step to finalize all of this. So if you don't get it all exactly where you want it right now, that's okay. So now what I'm going to do is all these other spots that I haven't put a second coat on, I want to put a second coat on. So I'm going to wash and dry my brush, and I'm going to decide what color to do. It's going to be predominantly my dark green, but I might tap into a little bit of yellow and or orange to set those the textural tones. My bridge is going to go across here, which I think we're going to have to put in place soon, or at least the base coat of it, because there's going to be overlapping branches, which I'll want to put as my final details to the bridge. But right now I'm going to try and put, again, the color pattern, darker tones, where I see these kind of batches of leaves and stuff. So I'm going to start with a bit of my dark green and give myself at least a second coat on a lot of these areas where I'm seeing the really darker versions of the leaves. So somewhere in through there, I've got lots of darkness up in through here. So again, right now I'm just kind of tapping a second layer of this dark green in between the black marks, we'll call them, that I've just done, or in areas where I feel like there is a lot of the dark green, and I'm going to put the orange on in a minute. But again, I just want a second coat, so this is allowing for me to put a second coat everywhere in these sections, and it allows me to make sure, like I did up in the background, that everything is painted. So you just don't want to miss areas and keep it, or making it look unfinished. So I know that that's one of the things that I definitely struggled with initially coming out of the gate, was making it all look, you know, really finished and polished. And by doing it in these layers and forcing myself to make sure that everything is painted in these early stages, I don't have to worry about it later. So I can attend to my details as opposed to worrying if I have this big, you know, streak of paint in through here that didn't get covered properly. So that's looking pretty good for the green areas. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to start incorporating some of those orange tones. And then that might be it for this step. So I didn't wash my brush. I just picked up some of the orange. I do see a little bit down in through here. There's going to be some yellow too, which we'll be incorporating. But right now, just, let's see, this was kind of here, somewhere in through here. I'm just kind of tapping in this color in order to, again, just give me kind of a roadmap as to where I want certain, not colors to dominate, so to speak, but definitely to be represented. And because I didn't wash my brush, all of these colors are just going to start to overlap one another, talk to each other. The green is talking to the orange right now. The you know, black is talking to the green, but I'm not going to put this orange everywhere. I'm just going to really try and concentrate on areas that I'm seeing it the most. So there's little bits up in through here, and then there's some yellow up in through here, which I can start with this orange. There's going to be some overlapping up in through here, and there's lots of teeny little tiny dots of that orange everywhere. We're going to have some soft overlapping kind of trees and stuff up in through here, which I'll put later. Over on this right hand side, I don't have as much orange over on this side, but I definitely have something right, let's see, a little bit below here, somewhere in this area. I've got a bunch of orange in through here and tapping over there. And again, I'm just kind of taking my brush and just tapping it in these areas. I'll most likely be adding more darkness and lightness to give them a little bit more dimension, but right now I'm just saying, okay, I see some leaves, I see some orange yellowy kind of leaves in through here, so let me just start that process. Let me get these colors to start to represent and to give me my jumping off point for these particular colors and sections and things of that nature. So this is looking pretty good up here. I might put some more darkness up in through here later as well. Actually, this is super light up here. I'm going to pick up a tiny bit of yellow and white also on my dirty brush with that orange. So I have yellow, white, and orange on my brush right now, just to kind of amp up this one little section. That was a mistake, because now I'm going to want to put it everywhere. A little bit here too. Okay, I'm not going to do any more of that except for these dots right here. All right, I need a tiny bit of this down in the water. So all I'm going to do is I'm going to take my brush, I'm going to squeeze it out in my paper towel, and I'm going to use that remnants and just kind of pop a little bit of lightness onto here. I didn't do hardly anything, just a itty bitty bit, whatever remnants are on my brush, I'm using as reflections in my water. And then I'm going to use my small bristle brush for the next step. So you can put this one away, take out your small bristle brush, and get ready for the next step. All right, so what we're going to do for the next step is we're going to finish the waterfall and the pool of water below it. I'm using my small bristle brush. The dominant colors I'm going to be using are black and white, but when I get down into the pool, I might use some of my green. And if I'm feeling like I need more mistiness, I might go into that custom gray color that we used for the background as well. But right now in my head, I'm thinking mostly black and white. So what I'm going to first do is I'm going to put the flow in the waterfall first, and then we'll add the little details on top of it. So I don't want to start with white. I only want to use white at the very end. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to right now have both white and black on my brush at the same time. Probably more white than black, and you don't want it too dark, but you definitely want it to have some darkness to it. As I'm looking at the photo, there is a dark spot kind of coming down the middle. There's some darkness in through here, and then it almost looks like as the water falls, it is hitting some rocks on the sides, and there's like these little sprays that come in through here. So what I'm going to attempt to do first is just put some dark areas in, and then as we build to the lightness, we'll be building those trajectories of the water flowing off, and it's going to have lots of movement at the top. So if this is kind of the center of my waterfall, I'm a little bit to the left of that, and I'm going to put see, that's not dark enough. I'm going to pick up a little bit more black. It needs to be darker than what you've done. So I just keep picking up, there we go. Now we've got a little bit darker. So I'm going to just kind of tap my brush down in through here. I don't need to color over all of that gray that I did. This is just putting in these darker marks in order to help with the direction of the water. So there's some darkness over in through here. So again, this is my white with a little bit of black on my brush, and I just kind of keep picking up just a little bit more black in order to get it as dark as I feel it needs to go. So a combination of white and black. Down on this side, I definitely have little bits of darkness over on this edge in through here. And again, just kind of keep picking up as much black as I need to get these little dark areas to emerge. So we started with a nice gray base, and I did kind of have a directional brush stroke kind of going down this way, but as I'm more looking at the photo, it does come out this way, but there's lots of movement coming down into the fall itself, kind of in these odd directions. So this is coming down in through here, like almost popping off of a rock in through here, and then there's some darkness in through here, kind of almost as if it's seeing the darkness behind it. So this is all waterfalls. When they get down towards that bottom, there's almost like a, not necessarily always, but there's got to be some kind of divot in the rocks below it in order for that water to come flowing on top of it. So that's down at the bottom of waterfalls, you might end up seeing these dark areas because the water's thinner. You might be seeing some of that darkness from whatever the mass of land is behind it. And again, I just kind of keep picking up a little bit of black on my dirty brush to get these darker areas. I've got some darkness in through here, and I'm just working off of the photo where I'm seeing these dark spots. This is dark in through here, and then we've got some darkness up in through here. So now that I've got a lot of good dark areas, let me just make sure this tiny area over here blends with this side. There we go, something like that. That looks pretty good. Now I can put a little bit of this grayish tone in the water. So I'm not going to wash my brush. I'm just going to kind of see what I have on it. And this is a nice kind of dark, soft gray that I can pull out on these sides, and maybe even put a little bit in this water coming in through here. The water is not only a reflection of the waterfall, but it's also the movement of the waterfall. So you can add ripples, you can add a firm reflection. I'm going for a real soft transition into the water, and then we'll put some bright stuff in a minute. So that's looking pretty good. Let me just get a little layer in through here, maybe with a little bit more white in this center area, in through here. And these two are going to definitely merge together somewhere in this vicinity. And then once I've got that on there, I'm going to start adding the brightness to the waterfall. So that looks pretty good. I've got my dark in through here. I might want maybe not a little bit, maybe not more dark, but just maybe a little bit more just softness coming down in through here. I'm just using the remnants on my brush and just kind of swirling it around so I don't have too much streakiness. This waterfall looks like it's kind of pulsing as it's coming down, so just getting rid of some of those super streaks. There we go, that looks good. Now I'm going to not wash my brush. I'm going to pick up a tiny bit of white paint. So a little bit of white paint on my dirty brush, and I'm going to start putting in the lighter areas, but because I'm using a dirty brush, I am going to have the opportunity to make these areas go even lighter. But right now, just kind of getting them in place. So this is definitely up towards the top where it's going to be the brightest, and maybe even splash a little bit. It looks like there's a little couple of splashes up and through there. And then I'm just going to keep loading my brush with white, even though I have dirty remnants on it with the gray or the black that I was using before. And again, this waterfall doesn't appear to be just shooting straight down. It looks like there's it's kind of like pulsing. So I'm gonna just kind of use this dabbing type of brush stroke to get my lighter areas to emerge in a direction that I feel is representational of the photo. So it's covering up a little bit of that darkness in through there, in through here. It's a little bit lighter up in through here. And then down on these sides, this is where I'm going to start seeing the actual trajectory coming off of some of these rocks. So over here, and I'm going to put a tiny bit of water on my brush too, so I can get a little bit more of a pull kind of thing. So just little bits kind of coming down in through here. That's looking pretty good. And again, my dirty brush, that's my key here. It looks like there's almost 3 areas where it kind of comes off in through here. We got one there, one little one here, and where they pop off the rocks, that's where they're going to be the brightest. So I just kind of put that little bright spot and then just let it pop off like that. There's a little one, let's see, this one is kind of in between these two guys. So somewhere over here, there's a couple of little spots that are coming off these little rocks here. And if you want to do a waterfall out of your head and not copying a photograph, you could certainly bend this and make it into whatever type of waterfall you want. I just thought that this one was pretty neat because it's got such energy coming down into the water, and it's a super tall waterfall. Like, we're not even seeing, I think, half of it. It's a lot taller than this. This is one of the UNESCO National Heritage Sites. So it's just a spectacularly beautiful site. I think it's in Oregon or something like that. And having us being able to paint just a piece of it is really neat. I think the perspective of this photo was really cool. So I thought it would be neat to get this energetic waterfall on canvas. So we've got this in through here, really, really white in through here. So I just kind of keep tapping to make sure that I've got that the brightest where I want it to be. And if you're struggling with making it as bright as you want, sometimes you can add a little bit of a different hue. I'm using just black and white right now, but if I was struggling with getting this white to pop as much as I wanted to, I could certainly use a little bit of a touch of yellow or a touch of blue to allow for more color diversity in the in the value shifts, and that will sometimes allow your white to look even brighter than it is kind of on the fly naturally like this. So I'm seeing this is a little bit thicker in through here, kind of merging into here. And, you know, I'm really kind of attempting to make this look pretty representational of this particular waterfall. But again, you don't need to go as detail oriented as I'm going, even though, again, I'm not going 100% full on photo realistic here. I am still trying to get a very similar trajectory. I definitely want to put a lot of white in the water in through here. So this is going to be the splash plus a reflection. So I definitely want a lot of energy coming in through here. It almost just like morphs with the water as it's coming down. And then it's got this really kind of almost a clean little way about it coming over here. So I'm just going to kind of pull that out a little bit and then down in through here. This is where we're going to see more of those bright pops in the water. I got a lot in through here, and then it looks like it's going to dissipate as it comes to the left over in through here. And you could certainly switch to a different brush too. I love my bristle brushes. I'm actually picking up some of a little bit of black right now because I don't want this to be all white over here. I love my bristle brushes because I can really get lots of texture happening when I use them. But you could certainly, in this step, you could be using a small bright brush, or even a small round brush would be fine. I'm using the black and white because I don't want these. I want to have a kind of a variation in the colors of the water right now, so that's why I did that a little bit in through there. Maybe just a couple of little ripples out in through here, and then I'm going to start picking up white again and just making sure I've got my pops as white as I want them. That probably shouldn't be as white as up here, but maybe we'll add a little bit of gray down below. So this is looking pretty good to me. I might fiddle with it a little bit more, but I'm digging the way that it's looking. This area doesn't have as much spray as up there did, so I'm feeling like I don't need to add too much more. I'm digging the way that it looks, but maybe just a little. I think I am going to use a little bit of brown and white. So a touch of brown and white. I feel like I want a little bit more dimension in the color. So I'm going to wash and dry my brush. I'm going to use, because I feel like in through here, I want there to be more, I just bent my brush. Sometimes I'm a little violent with my drying of my brush. So I just picked up a little bit of brown and white. I feel like I want there to be a little bit more dimension in the water, but I don't want to go more white and I don't want to go more brown or black. So I'm adding this kind of a light brown to these sides, and that's going to help to make my water down the middle look a little bit brighter as well. So this was just a little bit of brown and white to help with just a little tonal shift in that color variation. I'll make that center stuff look a little bit brighter, and then I can pick up a little bit more white, and this will get these guys in here to look even brighter. So those are just the little tricks that as you're going through and you're saying, oh, mine's just not, it's not popping enough, it's not, you know, I want there to be more brightness to it, I want there to be more definition to it. It's usually because you just need more color contrast. And for me, I was feeling that that's what was happening. I was too black and white, and I needed to have a little bit more color contrast in order to get this center area to really shine as the part that's closest to the viewer. So I just added those little, that little bit of brown in order to get those sides to sit back a little bit further. And then I would just let it dry, keep fiddling with it as much as I want to in order to get it into the brightness that I want, but I'm thinking that it's looking pretty good in my opinion right now. But I might, like I said, fiddle with it just a little bit more, maybe just a little bit more on these guys and through here. And then we're going to be using, we're going to use our small brush for the next step. So once you've got this done, fiddle with it as much as you want. You can put this brush away, take out a small round, and get ready for the next step. All right, so what I'm going to do for the next step is I'm going to be painting the base coat for my bridge. I'm using my small brush. The color I'm going to be using is that tan color that we pre-mixed. What I'm going to be doing is I'm going to be guiding you through a series of markers, and we're just going to paint our bridge. Hopefully we'll have something that doesn't look like it's going to fall down by the time we're done. So I'm just using my tan. I'm going to, on the left, my bridge is going to be about halfway between my waterfall and the top of my canvas. So that's where I'm gonna start my mark. I'm just gonna give myself a mark. I'm gonna say I'm about 3 inches from the top of my canvas. So somewhere in through here. It looks like it might be a little bit higher than, you know, a little bit more towards the top than the bottom of here. So around the middle spot, about 3 inches from the top. Then what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my brush or something that you can use to measure. I'm going to take it, I'm going to say, okay, I did this one this high. So I'm going to go over until I feel like it's disappearing behind my trees, give myself another marker. And then I'm going to do the same thing over on the left-hand side. So I'm just going to say, okay, this is about how high it is. I'm going to come over where it's starting to disappear behind the trees and give myself another marker. Now I'm going to connect these with a long line. So I have watered down, I've used a little bit of water on my brush with my paint, and all of this is dry, and I will be resting my hand on my canvas, and this will help guide me into a straighter line. We will be doing highlights and shadows and details and all that good stuff, so it's not perfectly straight, don't worry. And you could also draw yours out if you wanted to. Just kind of connect your dots, keep your eye on the prize, which is the next marker. So if I start here, I'm going to just kind of watch for my next marker, and that wasn't totally straight, but we're okay with that. And then just do the same thing here. You could make many more than 3 markers. You can see mine is not totally straight, but again, I'm okay with that because I know what's going to happen next. So I'll have ample opportunity to correct it. Then what I'm going to do is I'm going to come down about 1/4 of an inch below that and make another line. So you could just go for it and just kind of make it just a little bit lower, or you could mark it off if you wanted to. That'll be totally up to you. I'm just gonna make a second line like that. Then what I'm gonna do, there's 2 on this bridge, there's 2 wide pillars. So one of them is right about here. I'm just gonna put a kind of a wide pillar in through here. It goes up just a little bit above the top railing, and I'm going to do the same thing. I think the other one is somewhere in this area in through here, so I'm going to do another one. I say wide, but that's relatively speaking, they're really tiny. So something like that. And then I'm going to make a whole bunch of little vertical lines between here, 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 and here, just a whole bunch of them. They are probably, I would say maybe 1/8 of an inch apart from each other. They're just super tiny. So just little vertical lines. If you can equally space them, great, but they're so tiny and they're so close together. I don't think that if you are off a little bit that it's going to matter. And I think the biggest trick is just to keep them vertical. So I know for me, when I'm doing these kind of small, repetitive mark making like this, I have a tendency to tip them one way or the other, especially if I don't move my body right behind it. So if you're finding you're going halfway through and it starts to tip, you might need to shift your chair that you're sitting in, or just kind of somehow give yourself a couple of straight markers. You know, you could go between here and here and say, okay, well, there's a straight one, or ish, and you'll have that visual to kind of keep you on track. Because if if you lose the visual and your body starts going crooked, so too is your paint stroke. So if you want it to look vertical and you're not having success, it could be a variety of reasons that are making it not go vertical. And I'm painting from way over here on the side, so I'm not even sure, like those look a little slanted to me. So I will either rectify that right now or not worry about it. So it's, again, how much is important to you? Do you care if your lines aren't perfectly straight? So now we're going to put a curve down underneath it. Once I've got this on here, I'm going to come down, I would say, well, go kind of to the center of your bridge and come down maybe about another quarter to a half of an inch, somewhere in through here. And then I'm just going to do a long curved line into my land. So for me on this side, it's going to land right about in through here. So I'm going to take from here, I'm going to put some more water on my brush so I have fluidity to this. I'm going to take it from here and then just give myself a long curve like that. And I'm going to do the same thing on the other side. I think this one kind of disappears a little bit higher on the landscape, somewhere around here. I think you could probably detect we see less of this here than we do here. So I think we're seeing the bridge from a little bit of an angle. So this one looks like it's going to be a little bit higher on the right side. So I'm just adjusting for that. Something like this. That works for me. And then there's this whole piece kind of, we're going to be doing a shadow on it later, but I'm going to just paint it in a solid color right now. So I'm going to take from here, I'm just making myself a marker right kind of in the middle there, and I'm going to come up from here just a little bit, like in through here. I'm going to connect here to here with a similar arc as what I just did. So it's a little bit more narrow here than it is here. So that'll give you a little extra cue in through there. I'm going to be painting in this whole area, so I don't really care if my line was super perfect. And then over on this side, it is a little bit wider too, maybe somewhere in through there. And then just kind of giving myself this connector line like this. The top side can be clean, the inside or the bottom side I'm going to color in right now. So I'm just taking my tan and coloring in this whole section right here. Again, we'll put more dimension on it in a future step, but this is just giving us our base coat, and it's going to hide behind a whole bunch of trees and stuff over on the side. So don't worry terribly what happens over on the sides. We can hide anything with foliage. And then I'm just going to finish out this side. I might have to adjust this a little bit. It looks a little wonky to me, but we'll see how it plays out. And now I'm going to make a couple of curved lines. So there's like these pillars. I'm going to take it and I'm going to first just make a vertical line like that. One there, one there. These are a little bit wider than the rails up here. I'm going to take one here, make it pretty. I'm kind of just pushing my brush as hard as I can, and that will give me a similar width from each of these. I'm going to do the same thing on the other side. I think I'm going to put my first one here, and then I've got one here, and then I've got one hiding behind these trees in through here, and then there's a little kind of arc at the top of them, just a little bit like this. We're going to color in this little inside part in a second. I'm just going to take this, give myself a little arc, and then one more over in through here. There probably is one there, but I don't think I really see it too much, so I'm not going to do it. And then I'm going to do similar arcs over here. And again, don't worry if there's exactly symmetrical from one side to the other, but if they can be similar, that's great. And any little space that you have from this bottom edge of the rail to the arc, just color in with the tan color. So this whole little intermingling section right in through here, you can just color it in. So I just gave you those lines so we had an easy way to draw and paint at the same time. But now we're just going to color in this whole area. And then once we've got this on, and you can certainly, if you felt it would behoove you to put a second coat on the bridge color, you could certainly do that. Like I know that I used thinned out paint for some of it because that gives me a better shot at getting, I think I have a little spot right here too that might see the arc, but we're just going to color it in like the other side. If you felt you wanted to do a second coat, feel free to do so. We're going to do this same, or use this same brush for the next step. So once you've got this base coat for the bridge, you can wash and dry this small brush and get ready for the next step. All right, so what we're going to do for the next step is we're going to finish our bridge. I'm using my small #1 round brush. The colors that I'm going to use are tan, black, white, and that might be it. If I use any other colors, I'll let you know. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to add lots of shadowy stuff underneath the bridge. There's there's part of the bridge that we actually see underneath these little arches, so I'm going to put that in place, and then we'll put some itty bitty tiny detail on these rails and stuff. So I'm going to start underneath here. I'm going to be using my tan plus black on my brush at the same time. I'm going to be giving this dark side underneath here, but I'm going to leave a little light rim up at the top, as if that's the exterior edge that we are seeing as the spectator of sorts. So I'm just bringing this all the way down to where it meets the edge of the forest or the ledge, whatever you want to call it. So again, I'm using my tan plus a little black on my brush. This one's going to come up pretty close to here. So let me just kind of mark this off so I have an idea of how wide I want it to go. That looks good. And through there. And then again, just keep reloading my brush. And I'm working in such a tiny area. Using a little bit of water on my brush is again going to help me get these nice clean little lines. And it looks like the underside of the bridge appears to me to be a little bit darker on this left hand side. So I might, after I get this on here, I might go back to that left hand side and make it even darker with a little bit of black. But right now just getting this dark area in here. And I'm definitely going to go darker. And the reason being, even if it's not as dark as I'm going to go in my picture, I needed to have some contrast against this background in through here. So I definitely need a little bit more black because it's not showing. Because it's the same tone. I'm painting it as a very similar tonal value. So if you're losing the bottom of your bridge because it's no darker or no lighter than the area behind it, means you need more contrast. So for me, I'm making it a little bit darker. So I'm adding a little bit more black to the equation so it can pop out in front of that background. So those are just little tricks. Again, if you're going about this and you're saying, wow, why isn't mine popping? Why can't I see the bottom of that bridge against that background? That's primarily the reason why. So I'm just keep amping up my darkness so I can make sure that I've got it as dark as I want, and that I'm coloring in all the areas that need to be colored in. So that looks pretty good. Now I'm going to tackle the dark underside of it. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to just take it from this little pillar here, and I'm just going to draw a line to the left. So I'm going to take it from here. I'm going to skip that pillar and draw this horizontal line like this. And then I'm going to color in these sections with black paint. And when I'm doing these type of really, you know, small detail kind of things, you have to decide how much detail do you as the artist really want to put into it, especially when you're emulating a photograph where you can really easily just get lost in all those little fine-tuned details. So as I'm developing the process to paint this for you guys, I have to make decisions as to what I'm going to eliminate, what I'm going to keep. Am I going to keep everything? And in this particular painting, I opted for some pretty good detail in the bridge, but I'm going to eliminate some of the detail in the foliage, because I felt like this was pretty firm with the detail before I finish that thought. So I'm just going to come straight across here, and this whole section is pretty much black, and then I can just take this line and go across like this, and this disappears behind there, and then I'll color these in through here. So I could have made this bridge very kind of loose and interpretive, but it looked pretty clean to me for the details on it, that I think we could accomplish them with some simple line work. I did eliminate, there was people all over the bridge, so I got rid of the people, and left this bridge as its own beautiful bridge. So you make those decisions. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to kind of make a line a little bit kind of almost right at the top of these arcs. I'm still just using watered down black at this point. This is going to separate the top of the bridge from these overhang or these underside things. So I'm going to just take a little bit of my watered down paint and kind of give myself a skinny little line, just coming right across like this. And if you wobble a little like I just did, don't worry about it. I'm running out of paint now. So just reloading and coming across like this, kind of hitting the top of those archways. There's a little shadow I'm seeing from this pillar right here. We can actually see the side of this pillar, so I'm actually going to bring just a little bit of a line down here. There's one here too, because of the angle of the bridge. I can see a little bit of the side of these pillars. That looks pretty good. I can't see that on this side, so now I'm going to take that thin, watered down black paint. I'm going to put a shadow underneath this upper rail, so just a tiny bit of black paint and a very light touch and only one eye. It's the only way I can see it. So I'm gonna, holy cow, this is so tiny. I really, in the past week or two, have been testing my eyesight with these little tiny detailed paintings. I'm skipping this, well, actually, let me put a little one up top here. There's a little one there, and it's a little higher, and right down in through here. So I'm hardly touching my canvas. I've got watered down black paint to create, oops, that was a little wonky, a little one up here and then over here. And again, do as much detail as you want. I'm most likely gonna, when I get to the little pillars, I might make them a little bit more simplified, but that looks pretty good like that. I think that there's a little bit of a kind of a shadow on the sides of these guys and through here, something like that, and then maybe just a tiny touch. I'm just hardly touching my canvas to get like a little dirty edge in through here, a little watered down black. That looks good. All right, so that looks pretty good. Now what I'm going to do is I want to just kind of add little bits of highlights on the remaining parts. That looks pretty good. I think I need a little bit more of a shadow right underneath these guys. This right here, this looks like it needs a little bit more. There we go. All right, so I'm going to wash and dry my brush. I'm going to pick up some tan and white. So tan and white is going on my brush right now. I'm going to put a pretty big highlight in through here. I need a little bit more tan than that so it doesn't go all the way white on me. And you don't need to make this a solid color going across. This is just something that's going to accent the concrete, if you will, of these particular pieces. So, and get them to pop out a little bit more. So just a little bit in through there. And then I'm going to do the same thing up on the upper pieces. So tan plus white. I feel that a lot of these center ones kind of have a little bit more brightness to them. So you could do the whole thing. You could make them, I feel like I want mine a little bit wider. So I'm just using my tan plus white in order to give myself a little bit more width on these and a little bit more, but you don't want them to go too wide. That one was too wide. You don't want it to take away from the background look of your bridge. So this is looking pretty good. Maybe a little bit, looks like there's a little detail kind of stuff at the top. I'm gonna just kind of pull a little bit in through here like that, and then I'm going to put a little bit on these guys in through here, maybe a little bit more white. And then once I've got it kind of on to the best of my ability, or as much as I want to, I can sit and fiddle with it. So if I felt that the top of this wasn't popping enough, I could, you know, pick up a little bit of white with my tan and get this top to be a little bit brighter. So those are the decisions that once you've got everything in place, you can make as to whether or not you need something to be brighter or darker, or allow it to stand out a little bit more. I'm thinking that I might want a little bit of this tan and white on these couple of pillars right in through here. They look like they've got a little bit of lightness to them. And then once you've got it done, we're gonna switch to our I think I'm going to be using both of my bristle brushes for the next step. So once you've got this done, you can get your bristle brushes out and ready, and there we go, and get ready for the next step. All right, so what we're going to do for the next step is we're going to do the second step to our ledges and the first step to this foreground area. I'm predominantly going to be using my large bristle brush, but I might tap into my small bristle brush if I feel the need. So I'm going to be using black, brown, dark green, orange, white, and that might be it. That might be it. I'll call out the colors as I use them. So on my ledges, there's just so much dimension on them, and I want to make sure that I capture that. I feel that I need more browns and stuff, deep colors, especially up in through here. In through here, I still feel like I need some more like deeper brownish green kind of colors, and same thing with up here. I also, now that the bridge is in place, I can start overlapping the foliage that's going to be kind of hanging in front of it. And there's also a couple of trees and stuff up in through here that I want to put their leaves and stuff in place. And then down in through here, I want to get the colors to start to emerge with their own dimension. There's a bunch of leaves that are going to be overhanging this whole area, so I want to make sure that I start those. And I also need to, I have some unpainted area down at the bottom of my ledges that I want to take care of. A future step will come back and do some branches and some fine-tuned detail on leaves and some sticks and stuff. But right now we're gonna get the majority of that dimensional stuff in place. So I am going to start with a touch of black and brown on my brush at the same time, because again, I feel like there's some areas that need more darkness to them. So this little rocky thing in through here, I feel I need more black little dots in it in order for it to look like it's got as much dimension as I want it to. And I will come back and put some little highlights and stuff on it in a little bit, but I really just want to make sure that I have enough darkness where I feel it's necessary. I need this down here to be closed off, so just whatever dark color I have on my brush, I can take care of that. This looks pretty good in through here. I'm pretty happy with that, except for this one little spot. So just making sure that that is accomplished. we've got some dark in through here. Again, just kind of making sure that I've got as much darkness as I want. It's always, for me, seems to be easier to build more dimension if I have those deeper tones underneath. So as I go through these processes, I just picked up some more brown. And if I'm developing in it and I'm saying, it's just not, I'm not feeling that I have enough shadows. I'm not feeling that it's dark enough. So I will come back in a step like this and make sure that I have that stuff incorporated so I don't struggle with adding that on top. It's, shadows to me are underneath things, so it's easier for me to just kind of come through in a step like this and add this extra bit of darkness, and or like I'm putting some more brown on my brush right now and getting these to read as more earthy tones. A little bit more black is coming on because I feel lots of darkness up in through here. And again, the green is still evident. I still have the green showing. It's just I needed those deeper tones in order to make it feel lush and have that depth into it. So in through here, this is where it's gonna start to emerge and pop out from the hillside or the ledge side. So I just picked up a tiny bit of my dark green just to give myself a little pop out in through here. Make sure that I've got it overlapping my bridge where I feel it should be, and I'm thinking that that's pretty good. Again, I'll put some light color on it in a little bit, but this is just kind of, again, just kind of getting me started. That works in through there. I feel like I've got some good browns in there now. That looks good. Maybe a little bit more brown in through here. And you can see, I don't wash my brush much because this just helps me get all of these things to work with each other. I'm putting some brown on top of the green, on top of the black, and the brown I know is transparent, so it will take on some of those colors underneath, and that helps build that information. So again, I'm going to pick up more black and brown and do the same kind of thing over here because I feel I need a little bit more depth in this area in through here. So I'm just stippling right now, just taking my brush and dotting it, except for in through here where I feel I need to rub it a little bit to get into the little crevices of the canvas because those are unpainted spots right now. So just making sure that I get those tackled. There we go. That took care of them. And you can have little bits of green. That's going to make it look like there's little moss or whatever on that bottom side of the cliff or the overhang, whatever you want to refer to this as. I do feel I want a little bit more black in through here. So again, this is where I just make sure that I've got that as dark as I want it. So we'll be adding all those little bits of highlights. This is pretty light in through here with the greenery and foliage that's going to be happening, but there's a little bit more depth in these guys up and through here. So again, just kind of tapping in a little bit more of that darkness. I'm going to pick up a little bit more brown as I'm going up into this area up and through here because I feel like this is going to take on more of the earthy green tones, maybe a little bit more black. I love my black when it comes to getting the depth into these textural elements. That looks good. I'm going to cross over my bridge right now, just getting kind of hiding the edge of that. There's going to be little sticks coming up in through here. There's some good little dark spots along the edge of there, little dark spots around here, and then we've got this guy coming up here. I'm going to now pick up some of my dark green and get some of this to just kind of tap that off on my paper towel. There we go, that works. And get some of this to overlap in through here. We're going to have a couple of trees popping out in through here, but I still want to have the evidence of that background behind there, so I'm not going to overdo this. I just want to kind of diffuse the edge of this hillside so it's not a solid color. That looks good. Now I'm going to come down into my foreground. I am gonna I'm not going to wash my brush. I'm going to just use the dirty stuff on there because I feel like there's a little bit of darkness right in this area in through here. So I'm just going to kind of get that a little bit darker. And I don't really need to do much, just making sure that I don't have a gap between my water and my land. I'm going to pick up some of my, what am I going to pick up now? I'm going to pick up some of my dark green and orange. I see a lot of little speckles on the ground, so I just picked up some dark green and orange, and I'm just going to kind of dot this in through here. It looks like some of this land kind of overlaps into the water a little bit. I'm not quite sure if I'm seeing leaves floating in the water here or if we're seeing little sprigs of pieces of grass or something. So I'm just gonna go intuitively here and just kind of tap in where I'm seeing some of these orange spots. That looks pretty good. I'm gonna wash my brush now because I feel like it's a little overloaded with paint. Over on this right hand side, I'm gonna pick up some of my I'm gonna go dark green to start, and I'm gonna tap in a couple of pieces kind of coming up here. There's leaves that are overhanging in this area, but I don't want to overdo it, so I'm going to be very cautious in through here. So this is just the dark green to kind of get this edge started. Now I'm going to pick up a little bit of my orange, and I'm going to just kind of lightly tap in where I want these to have a presence, but I'm not overdoing it right now. I just want to, I'll be putting a little bit more detail on them when I come back and do my final details, but this is just going to kind of set my stage as to where I want them. I want to kind of show a little bit of this black in through here so that so it looks like we have these little peekaboo spots between the leaves and the water. So this is just gonna give me this fun little carefree display of these leaves, and then we can add some fun detail on top of it. So that looks pretty good. It looks like there's a little batch of them in through here and in through here, and that's looking pretty good to me. So I didn't use my medium brush. I think thinking that looks pretty good. I think that's all I'm going to do for this step. I'm going to use my my small bristle and my small round for the next step. So you can just get ready. All right, so what we're going to do for the next step is we're going to finish our ledges or cliffs. I'm not quite sure what I keep calling them, but these two areas right here. I'm going to be using a combination of my 1/4 inch bristle and my number 1 round. And I'm going to be using a bunch of colors. I'm definitely going to be using my dark green, yellow, white, orange, and red. And I might use some green oxide too, but as always, I'll just call them out as I use them. So I want to add a couple of sticks and trees and stuff. There's a couple of trees up here, and I see some branches kind of leaning down. I see some branches, and I kind of want to bring this tree out a little bit further, maybe to, it comes out maybe out into here. So I want to add those little branches and the rest of the highlighted type of leaves. So I'm going to be elevating my light spots and making some more textural type of marks. I want to put more brightness on these areas down in through here where I think it's like very textured kind of rocks down in through here, and then bright leaves throughout. So I'm starting with my bristle brush, and I think I'm just going to kind of start at the bottom, work my way up for the textural stuff that I can do with this brush, and then I'll switch to my small round to do my branches and my tree trunks and stuff. So I'm going to start down in through here with my tan color. I'm also going to pick up a tiny bit of my orange and brown. So I don't know if I said those colors, but tan, orange, brown, red, yellow, white, dark green, light green. I think that's it. So right now on my brush I have tan, brown, and orange in order to give myself some little highlighted speckle marks on this piece of a rock in through here. And I will use this color combination for all the little areas that I feel have this similar type of tone to it. And I'm just speckling. So this is allowing for me to have all the colors that I had put underneath to still show through. So tan, a little bit of orange, and a little bit of brown. I've got a couple little pieces of it down in through here. And because I'm using multiple colors on my brush at the same time, it's allowing for diversity in these little marks that I'm making. So it provides me with spots that might be shown a little bit more, a little bit shinier from the sun, or have a little bit more texture on them, or have a little bit different color to the rocks, because rocks have lots of different colors to them. So that will help to accomplish that kind of look. It looks like it's pretty dense and light down at the bottom, and then gets pretty dispersed up at the top. So I'm just trying to give myself a similar type of color pattern, and that looks pretty good in through there. I'm going to go elsewhere where I see this color. So tan, orange, and brown. I've got this stuff happening over here as well. So there's a light spot in through there. There's a couple little rocks there. There's a couple little marks there. We've got some down in through here, and you can see I'm just saying, okay, well, where do I see this color, and in what type of area am I seeing it? Am I seeing little tiny dots? Am I seeing a bigger area that looks like there's, you know, I don't even know what this is, if it's a rock or if it's little flowers. I don't think it's flowers. I just think it's part of the rock. There's part in through there, then it kind of dabbles over in through here. That looks fine to me. So tan, orange, and brown. Where else do I see this? It's here. I think there's, well, we got these areas up in through here, so let me just kind of pop over here with these. Just little tiny spots of highlights are going on there. And again, that's what my mission is right now, is just to kind of give little bits of highlights here and there onto all of these pieces. I think that's good. Maybe just a little tiny bit in through here, something like that, and maybe a little bit in through here. That looks good. So that's good for those areas. And now I'm gonna I want to just make sure I've got my branches and stuff as big as I want them. So I just wipe my brush off on my paper towel. I'm going to pick up some orange with a little bit of my, I'm going orange and green oxide, because I want this to be a little bit lighter than that dark green. So this is orange and green oxide, and I'm just pulling it out over this bridge a little bit, orange and green oxide, and same up and through here. This branch to me seems like it comes out about this far, so I'm gonna pull that out just a little bit more, so we've got that color represented. And I like this orange and green, so I'm just kind of putting it along this edge in through here. That's making that pop out a little bit more, and I'm digging it, so I'm gonna keep on that quest. So this is orange and my green oxide. I see it feels good to be putting it in through here. I can put it along this cliffside in through here. That's a great combination, orange and my green oxide. I want to pull out these little branches out in through here. That was too much orange, but that's okay. We'll just wipe our brush off and pick up some more green oxide and just give a little bit more definition in through here. I do need to put my my tree trunk and some branches, but right now just kind of getting some life with this additional tone on the edges of these rocks, something like this, or this interior edge. That looks pretty good up and through there. I'm going to pick up a little bit more orange. I'm going to go orange with a touch of white on my dirty brush. I want this to be brighter up and through here before I start adding my final details to it. So while I'm here and I'm thinking about it, I just want to add this little bit of additional brightness in through here. That looks good. And then I'm going to tackle that same thought process that I just did there. I want to add those light pops of leaves throughout the rest of it. But there's dark areas that I don't want to overwhelm. So like in through here, super dark. So I only need little bits of pops of colors. So I'm just going to wipe my brush off. And I really liked that green oxide and orange combination. So I'm going to go for that right now. Green oxide and orange. And I'm going to start, I'm going to just tap in my brush. I might pick up a little bit of yellow too. Just so this is not all to one note in through here. So I'm going to pick up a little bit of yellow and white. So I have orange, yellow, white, and green oxide on my brush right now. Just give myself these little extra pops of color in through here. I will add some red also in a little bit, but I'm just going for where I see these really light tones, and I'm alternating. I'm going to alternate between my orange, my green oxide, my yellow, and my white. And this is going to allow me to just say, okay, well, I see a little extra yellow and white up and through here. So let me put that up and through there. I see, you know, little pops of these orange dots. So let me put those over in through here. I see little teeny tiny ones all up and through here, just little itty bitty ones up and through here, but I don't want to overwhelm it. So maybe I put a little bit more orange on my brush so it's not all the same light color. I think that's the trickiest part about it. This is going to be somewhere down in through here. And you can alternate those light and dark colors. It's going to be more of like a reddish or a rusty color in through there. So I don't want to go too light, which I feel I am right now. So I'm heading back to my green oxide. And I'm going to put a tiny bit of red on my brush too. So I have green oxide and a little bit of red. That didn't work because I have white on my brush too. So I just made some pink. We don't need to do that. I'm washing and drying my brush. I'm going to put a little bit of red and my green oxide. I like kind of mixing these colors here because it's going to give me these little different kind of pops of leaves throughout this area. I'm not sure if this is like an early spring landscape or if it's an early fall or late spring maybe, because I know around where I live we have a lot of our branches, our leaves, as they are awakening for the spring, they look yellow. So I don't know, and orange. So I don't know if this is spring or fall, but whatever it is, it's super pretty. I just picked up more of my orange so I can get a little bit more orange up and through here. I've got lots of little dots up and through here. So I'm just kind of working around with these areas. I've got a lot of lightness in through here. So I'm going to just play with a little bit more lightness in through here, and then I will switch to my small brush. Once I've got a good assembly of these light areas, I have a light yellow on my palette that I just made with a little bit of yellow and white. So you can do that as well, just kind of dabbing in where I'm seeing some real light. Looks like there's a couple of branches that are overhanging here and here. I'm picking up a little bit of green oxide. So as I float around, I'm watching my picture and I'm saying, okay, well, I've landed in this area over here and I'm seeing like a real light green color. So that's where I said, okay, well, I've got a little bit of my orange on my brush, but I bet you if I picked up a little bit of green oxide to counteract this with maybe a little light yellow, it'll give me something similar to what I'm seeing in the photograph. And you can, of course, you know, modify those colors. I'm picking up a little bit more orange. I see a couple orange pops in through here. These branches in through here, I feel like they need to go a little bit lighter. So I just wipe my brush off. I'm going to pick up a little bit of green oxide and yellow. No white unless there's something on my brush. And then just kind of pick a couple of lighter areas in through here that are already pretty light, and just kind of dab in a little extra brightness to them. So this is green oxide and a little bit of yellow, and this will help me to get maybe some extra little branches just kind of popping out. You can, I'm doing a little bit of a directional brush stroke right now. I'm kind of pulling them down towards the left, which is kind of what I'm seeing in the photo. Just looks like there might be a little bit of direction to those ones. I'm feeling that's pretty dark in through there. We got a little bit more in through here, maybe with a little bit more yellow and orange on my brush to just warm it up, but keep it light. So that orange helps to do that. So the orange will help to kind of keep that tone warm, but because I had the yellow and white, that allowed it to brighten up. That looks pretty. Now I just want to amp them up just a little bit more. Let me just first put this little pop. There's this little bright pop over here, which I think is fascinating. I don't know where it's coming from, but so that looks pretty good. Maybe in through here, maybe some more of that green oxide and yellow, just similar to what I did in through here, just kind of pop in a couple of real bright ones in here, just because I'm feeling like I'm seeing some extra green stuff, just like in this little area in through here, and maybe intermingled with these bright ones that we're going to put up and through here, the colorful ones. There's some sections with some colorful ones, so that looks good. I'm going to switch to my small brush now, and I'm going to put those tree trunks on, and then we'll come back and put some fun little final details on the branches, or on the leaves. So black and brown, I'm going to put a couple of trees up in this little corner, up and through here, and I'm going to bring them to, you can scoot them behind some of the leaves if you want, or in a minute when I put my final details on the leaves, you can put the leaves on top of it. So whatever you're feeling, whatever you're comfortable with, I'm going to kind of put them, I think, kind of behind there, and then maybe make them re-emerge under this little guy in through there. And again, I'm using black, brown, and now I'm putting a little bit of water on my brush. There's a little branch that comes somewhere out in through here. And again, there's no need to make every single branch exactly as this photo is, unless you're doing a photo that has, you know, an iconic branch that, you know, everybody is familiar with, and it's always, you know, it's a big, huge, hardy branch, and it has a purpose, and, you know, the story of that tree can't be told without that one branch. Just have fun with branches. They don't need to be exactly as the photo has them. You can really enjoy the process and make your own wiggly branches and make them have character to them. I am using a lot of thinned out black paint on my brush in order to just get a couple of these real skinny branches. I'll put leaves on top of them in a minute, but this will get that started. I'm going to do some faint ones over in through here. So again, black, brown, and a little bit of water. And you can pull these on top of your lighter leaves. So that's going to give you that added dimension within that area. So if you're missing some dimension and you want to add the illusion of something like that, we'll do the same thing down at the bottom with some branches on those leaves. But now I'm gonna wash dry my brush and just put some pops of bright little marks everywhere. So I'm gonna pick up some orange, red, and my light yellow, which was just yellow and white. And I'm really at this point just gonna make these tiny little polka dots. I don't want it all to be the same color, but I definitely want there to be some little pops of brightness. Oh, I could have used some branches in here too, but maybe I'll tackle those later. But if it's turning too yellow or too orange, or you want a little different of a color of a mixture, don't use the same color all the time, but you can certainly take whatever's on your brush and say, oh, I want some little red pops over here, or I want a couple of little red pops over here, or I want some down at the bottom in through here. I'm really just polka dotting at this point. And I can carry that color that's on my brush to many locations that will tie it all together. I don't think that there's many on this side with that kind of color combination, but definitely I see maybe a couple in through here, but not a whole heck of a lot. And then I changed my color combination. So maybe now I'm just picking up my orange. I do need some additional stuff in through here to overlap. So I'm picking up a little bit of my orange. I'm just going to kind of overlap little bits of stuff in through here. I'm going to put some little bits up in through here. And again, I'm at this point kind of freestyling with my colors as I'm enjoying them. But you could certainly make yours more or less, or have lots more of the orange or lots more of the red. If you're feeling those colors, just really roll with it and have that enjoyment out of it. I like this, the pops of the orange over in through here. And again, little tiny polka dots. That's all I'm doing right now, where I feel that I want to incorporate those colors. Definitely in through here, I feel like there's lots of extra bits of this orange in through here. And again, I'm working with the orange right now, so I'm carrying that orange everywhere that I'm seeing it. And then I can come through. Oh, this one's got a little line of it in through here. So little pops of the orange in through there. It's got some up in through here. And then I see a couple little pops in through here. And I'm just mark making. So again, I found this color in one area of the painting, and then I'm saying, where else do I see it? And I am incorporating it in those areas. So I feel that there's some in through here. And then I definitely need some light yellow in a minute here. And I want to, before I go any further, I'm going to put some more branches up here. So I just picked up some watered down black paint. And I want to just kind of incorporate some little branches up in through here. This was not necessary, but again, for me, as I'm going through these, if I see stuff that I'm intrigued by, like this little branch underneath the bridge, I want to incorporate it. It's just one of those things that it feeds my painterly eye, makes me feel like I've accomplished something. I was able to see this little tiny thing and get it to it be incorporated in my painting. It might not be necessary, but it feeds me as the painter that I am. Now I want to pop in some pretty bright yellow stuff. So I have this light yellow over here, but I want it more yellow, so I just added a bit more yellow to it. And I just am feeling some bright pops of yellow in a whole bunch of places, and that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to put a couple in through here, a couple tiny ones over in through here, maybe a couple over here. And again, trying not to overdo it, just I'm going to pick up some orange too. So I've got light yellow and orange. Just wherever you feel it would behoove you. I might re-pick up my my small bristle brush too, because I feel like I want bigger marks in some places, but it could easily take you 100 years to put every single leaf on. So you just got to know where your limit is and how much you want to put in the painting. But I'm thinking I'm almost at my limit. I'm gonna put some more up in through here. Some things I have patience for, some things I do not. Tiny details and million little leaves. I love the effect of them, but once I get to a certain point, I'm like, okay, I have enough leaves in my painting. So you might come to that point too. But the more you do, the more beautiful it comes out. So I just keep painting until I'm like, yeah, that's where my visual excitement is at, and this light yellow is totally doing it for me. It's bringing these little leaves at the edges. It's just bringing them to that place that is exciting me to look at. So that's another thing that I go for. Am I as the painter, am I excited to look at it? Because if I'm excited, I can certainly kind of sell that excitement to the viewer just by, you know, my fun paint strokes, or, you know, the energy that I've put into it as I'm painting. I feel like I'm really going impressionistic on these little leaves up here, which is fun. I'm enjoying it. And then I'm thinking that's pretty good. So I will let mine dry, and if I do want to add any more little leaves to it, I certainly will, but I'm feeling like I've got it to a place where my painterly eye is saying that's very exciting and pretty right now, so you could probably just stop. So I think that's where I'm going to go. I am going to be using my medium and my small brush for the next step, so you can just get ready. All right, so what we're going to do for the next step is we're going to finish the foreground. All I really need to do is pop a couple of little leaves and texture down at the bottom, and I'm going to do a couple of more in focus leaves over here, and we'll put some little sticks or stems and we'll be all done. So I'm going to be using my 1/4 inch bristle and my #1 round. I'm going to be using all the colors that are used in the leaves up top plus black. So my light yellow, which I didn't even show you how to mix that. It was just yellow and white that I used in the last step. Orange, white, and black, and my green, oxide, and yellow, maybe. If I use any other colors, I'll let you know. So I'm going to start with my bristle brush, just get my bigger things in place, and then I'll do some little details over in through here. So I'm going to pick up some green oxide yellow and a little bit of white, and I'm just going to pop in some extra little bright pieces on the ground in through here. I think there's some little bits in through here. You can have this representing as like a little branch or something that's sticking up from the ground, or you can have it going right into the water. So however you're seeing it, I'm kind of seeing it both ways. I'm kind of seeing it as rocks and then stuff sticking up, but you might be seeing it some other way. I'm picking up some more green, yellow, and white, and just popping in a couple of light areas back in through here. So these will be just like little pops of leaves back behind the big leaves that I'm going to be putting on in a second. And then I'm going to just wipe my brush off. I'm going to pick up a little bit of orange and red on my dirty brush so I can get a couple of little dark leaves or little pebbles and stuff down right by that water's edge in through here. That looks good. Maybe a little bit in through here as well. And then I've got I'm going to pick up a little bit more of that orange and red. There's a couple of bigger leaves. I feel like I want to put some reddish color in this guy in through here, and then maybe a couple little spots of darker red stuff in through here, and then up in these little pieces up in through here. So this is orange and red I'm using on my dirty brush. So there could be some of the light yellow or some other color on there. This is just giving me a couple of dark little marks within this assembly of leaves that I'm going to be putting in through there, or that I am putting in through there as we speak. This is good. I feel like there should be some darkness down in this bottom corner, so I'm wiping my brush off. I didn't say I was going to use black, but I'm picking up just a teeny tiny bit of black with my dark green and just kind of getting this a little bit darker down in through here. So black and dark green, which I did not say I was using in the beginning of this step, just making this a little bit darker down in through here. That looks good. And now I'm going to, looks pretty good. I'm going to wash my brush, and I'm going to put some of that light yellow on my brush with a little bit of orange. So light yellow plus a touch of orange, and this is just going to pop in a couple of more vibrant tones throughout this area. And this I will take and I will kind of manipulate these corners of these marks to make it look like these are little leaves, but you can just kind of dab it in there, and then I'll show you how to just take your small brush and create a leaf type of shape once you've got these just varying marks throughout it. So again, this is just my light yellow and a little bit of orange. And again, just kind of putting in some bright marks. And then I'll take my small brush in a minute and make some of these look more realistic. So again, just little tricks on how to create the illusion without having to painstakingly go through every single piece, every single area on your painting with a fine-tooth comb. These little tricks can help you to establish details without laboring over them too much. Just getting that impression of what it is with the color. And these are bigger marks than the ones up in here. These were dotting. This is I'm kind of giving it a larger area, so it looks like it's closer to the viewer, and that will allow it to allow the viewer to understand that this is something that is closer, because I've got these bigger marks in through here. And in a second, I'll put a little bit more detail on them so they'll know what that thing is. Over here, maybe these are a little bit smaller. Maybe this is our closest area, and over here is just a little bit smaller. So I'm going back to my little dotting more so than making shapes. Now I'm going to switch brushes to my small brush, if I can find it. Where did it go? All right. Here it is. I almost didn't know where my brush was. So I've got my small brush. I'm going to put some light areas on here. I'm going to start with my light yellow, and this is where I can take each one of these guys and say, okay, I could have this little edge to this one, and I could shape it just with like these little points on it, and it's now going to make it look like it's a leaf that's closer to the viewer, that maybe we're seeing all those little edges to the leaf. You could, take this one and just put little points on the edges of that. You could take, this one in through here and put just the little illusion of some edges on there. And again, this is just this one right in through here. I can kind of detect that there's a little leaf in through here, so I could take my light color and just kind of tap in some little points to that leaf, and now I've got something that resembles the edge of a leaf even down in through here. And it doesn't just have to be light yellow. You can use light orange and yellow, just something that's going to allow you to have the opacity where you can see or cover the paint underneath. So just taking this and just using the initial shape that I had created, and now I'm just kind of enhancing it. I can just take those little edges and just kind of pull them out. If I wanted to put more red, I can pick up a little bit of red and have more red than that. Have little kind of edge, the ones that were a little bit red, I can just add a little bit more brightness to them and pop out those little corners, and that'll make it look like it's got a little bit more substance to it. And then if you want, you can wash and dry your brush and put a couple little stems of your leaves. So I just picked up a little bit of black, watered down black, and I can just kind of throughout here just put a couple of little stems, nothing too invasive. The photo definitely has them more invasive than I'm willing to put them, but you can, put one here, you can put one over here. You could even put a little leaf at the end of it. If you wanted a little leaf at the end of it, you can have as much fun creating those. You could have it coming from one of your leaves if you wanted to. And if you did it and you're like, oh, I don't like those at all, you could certainly just dull them down. Just, pick up a little bit of white or any other color to just kind of dull them down. Even your light yellow would do it for you. So whatever you need to do to make it into the way that is visually appealing to you, feel free to do so. And then once you've got this done, we're going to use this same small brush for the next step. So you can just wash it and dry it and get ready. All right, so we are on to the final step. This is the final step of every painting, which is to sign it. So I typically sign mine in the bottom left or the bottom right. I'm using my small round brush. I'm going to sign mine in the bottom left using dark green paint. I like to sign mine with my initials, but you could of course sign yours with your first name. You could sign it with a fun symbol. You could sign it on the back. You can really identify your paintings whatever way you want because it's your painting and you get to mark it as you wish. And that's going to conclude this painting. I hope you enjoyed the process. I hope you painted yourself a beautiful waterfall scenery, and I look forward to painting and sipping with you again sometime.